on these issues. Now, in 2006, Susie Miller, who was teaching at Emily C. General School at the time, she started the Pen Pals program after the protest in Caledonia. She said there was so much turmoil and the relationship had deteriorated between Caledonia and Six Nations. She wanted to do something and to help mend that. And she started by inviting one of the schools in Caledonia to become pen pals with students at Emily C. General School. And on June 17th of this year, they gathered together at Chiefswood Park to celebrate their 10th anniversary of the Pen Pals project. And over the past decade, Pen Pals has grown, so much so that there were over 2,000 students at the event at Chiefswood Park from our schools and schools in the surrounding area. There were even some students from 2 schools in Toronto who attended. And the honoured guest for the day was the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, Elizabeth Dowdeswell, who congratulated Susie on her work, and she also spoke to the students. So a big congratulations to Susie and her team for all this fine work, and just to say keep up the good work. I want to talk now about the Save the Evidence campaign, which the Woodland Cultural Centre has been running to raise funds to repair the roof at the former Mohawk Institute Residential School, or the Mush Hole that we call it, and also to refurbish the inside. On June 21st, an event was held at the Cultural Centre and the school, which included some pretty high-profile individuals. The Right Honourable David Johnston, the Governor-General of Canada, and his wife Sharon, along with the Honourable Elizabeth Dowdeswell, the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, were in attendance to lend support to the program. In fact, Elizabeth Dowdeswell, the Lieutenant Governor, and I were acting as the hosts. Also in attendance were members of the Prince's Charities, which are charities supported by Prince Charles. And the members of the Prince's Charities includes former Lieutenant Governors and many former Premiers of the different provinces in Canada. They were all in attendance, and Historica Canada was also present and released a minute video about residential schools. It was shown on CBC that morning, and 2 of the actors in that video are from Six Nations, Davin Bombury and I think it's Jared Bombury. So all these guests were there for the day, and they were given tours of the former residential school, and they were able to hear firsthand some of the stories of some of the survivors who had attended that school. So we were, I want to thank them for having the courage to come up and tell those stories, and I think that we were very fortunate to have this kind of attention brought to the Save the Evidence campaign, and we're hopeful that it will assist with the fundraising. Also, I want to repeat, in last month's update I had mentioned that Premier Wynne had stood in Queen's Park in the legislature on May 30th and made an apology to the residential school survivors. And at that time, she also announced $250 million towards a number of initiatives over the next 3 years. And one of those was they designated $1.4 million for 2016-17 directly to the refurbishment and the repair of the roof of the Mohawk Institute. So we are making headway there. So while this event was going on at Woodland, of course, we were having our community potluck picnic at Chiefswood Park, which was, I understand, very well attended, and everyone had a good time. I was able to get there at 3 and stay till the rest of the afternoon to catch some of the last performances and visit the booths. I just want to thank Grand River Enterprises for again sponsoring all of the rides, and the counselors that did all the barbecuing and the serving, and the recreation staff particularly, and our staff, Shirley Johnson, who organized it, and all the volunteers that came out to help. It's one of our very successful community events that we have every year, so I'm glad everybody enjoyed it. I want to talk a little bit now about the Commonwealth Games that are coming up in Australia in 2018. Subsequent to Six Nations' involvement in the Pan Am Games and my participation and Kevin Sandy's participation, I guess, on the Aboriginal Leadership's Partners Forum, I was approached by the Chief Executive Officer of the Commonwealth Games for Canada. And he has contacted me as a follow-up to our involvement in the Pan Am Games and has asked me to speak at an upcoming International Commonwealth Games conference that's going to be held in Edmonton in October. He wanted me to speak about our involvement in the Games and also about Indigenous people in sports. Further to that, I was contacted by a chap I met during the Pan Am Games, who is the 3rd Vice President of the Pan Am Games Sports Organization. He is from St. Vincent in the Grenadine Islands. As well as I was contacted by the Chief Executive Officer of the International Commonwealth Games Federation. And they too wanted to talk about our involvement in the Pan Am Games and wanted to get some ideas about how the Indigenous people in Australia could be involved in the upcoming Commonwealth Games that are going to take place there. I did talk to the CEO of the International Federation via Skype a couple weeks ago, And he talked further about reconciliation and how sports could be used to help achieve reconciliation, especially with respect to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We had a good conversation, and he will be in Edmonton as well as the PASO vice president. So I'm going to be attending that conference, and they're going to pay my expenses to be there. And I'll be making a presentation and doing further follow-up with the other two gentlemen about the Commonwealth Games coming up. One of the things I do want to bring up is trying to get lacrosse as a game, as one of the sports that is played in the Pan Am Games and in the Commonwealth Games and maybe eventually the Olympics. I also want to bring up the fact that our lacrosse players have been trying to get into the UK to play in different world tournaments. So when they're trying to gain entry with the into the United Kingdom using the Haudenosaunee passports. So we've got some pretty high-profile people here that we can reach out to. And just on that issue, one of the members of the Princess Charities who were at Woodland was the High Commissioner to the UK for Canada, and that's Gordon Campbell, and I had a chance to speak to him as well. And he's based in the United Kingdom, so I've sent him an email to see how he might be able to help us with getting our lacrosse players into the United Kingdom on Haudenosaunee passports. So a lot of outreach going on, and we'll see if it leads to somewhere. So we'll keep everybody updated on that. So that's kind of exciting for us, and you know, as I said, maybe we'll have an athlete, like I know Carrie Lee Thomas is on the women's softball and Canadian softball team, so maybe she'll be in the Commonwealth Games, and maybe one day we will get lacrosse as a sport. I want to talk about Hydro One. Now, as a member of the Political Confederacy of the Chiefs of Ontario, I sit on a roundtable which was struck to deal with any outstanding historical grievances related to Hydro One. This roundtable was also dealing with the hydro rates and the delivery charge. And just a little while ago, somebody told me how their hydro bill has gone up about $40 again this month. So this roundtable was struck, and I've been at several meetings with the Minister of Energy, who was Bob Chiarelli. There's now a new minister. But every time I met with him, I repeatedly brought up the concerns about the hydro rates and the delivery charge. But now we have a bit of good news. The new Minister of Energy met with us last week in Thunder Bay when I was at the All Ontario Chiefs Conference, and he gave us a letter to indicate that he has now asked the Ontario Energy Board to begin discussions to look at options of establishing an on-reserve First Nations rate for hydro. So we're going to start these discussions at the end of the month in Toronto. I've already heard from the Ontario Energy Board, and so I'm going to be meeting with them along with some other chiefs, because this is not only going to be applicable to Six Nations, it will be a benefit for all First Nations in Ontario. So hopefully our discussions will lead to lower rates for our community, and we've got to figure out criteria and how it's going to work. And so this is just the beginning of it, so we're really excited about that, and we'll certainly keep you posted if we're successful. We're also beginning discussions with the Ministry of Energy, and we've already had one meeting with them on some of the outstanding grievances we have, especially with respect to transmission lines crossing our traditional territory, and for which we have never been compensated. So we're going to keep those discussions going as well. I'm also the lead on economic development for the Political Confederacy, and in this regard, we are working on plans for an Ontario First Nations Economic Forum, which is going to take place in Toronto in October. Now, leading up to this forum, there was a roundtable on infrastructure, and next week in Niagara Falls, there's going to be a roundtable on wealth creation. And we're hoping to bring in representatives of both the provincial and federal government to this forum, along with many business and corporations. Because we want to talk about how we can start creating more wealth in our community through business ventures and partnerships with other businesses. And we want to talk about to the provincial and federal government to reinforce our tax immunity, and that we are tax exempt, and also to work with them on removing some of the blocks that get thrown in our way when we want to get into partnerships and other business ventures. So that's going to be another exciting event coming up. Coming up as well for us in June, next Sunday, July 17th, is going to be the circus. Last year we had a special show for Six Nations at the Shrine Circus in Ancaster, and it was so successful they've approached us again. So we've bought 1,000. We've ordered 1,000. We didn't buy them. We've ordered 1,000 tickets, and we're trying to sell them, and they're going pretty fast. So you need to get your tickets early, because we've only got 1 week left. It's a special Six Nations show at 5 p.m. on Sunday, July 17th, and the cost is $10 per ticket. for special rate for Six Nations, and that's a pretty good price because the regular price is $35. So, as I said, get your tickets fast. You can get them from Shelby White, who is the receptionist at the administration office. We're also conducting a wellness signs campaign. This campaign will help give our children and youth a louder voice to express their positivity and creativity in how they think our community should live. During a Solidarity Day event at Chiefswood Park, blank white lawn signs were given out to all the children and the youth who were there. And our mission is to create, for them kids to take those signs, blank pages, and to create a response to the statement, "Wellness in my community means." And we want them to say what wellness means to them and put their name on their sign, display the sign on their front lawn, take a picture of your sign, and then send it to Jessica Hill at sixnations.ca with your name and age. Your name will then be entered into a draw to win a prize. And we have prize categories for all ages, 0 to 5. It is 10 Shrine Circus tickets. Although the circus might be over before the draw is made, so we're going to have to look at getting another prize there. Kindergarten to grade 3 will be a $400 Great Wolf Lodge gift certificate. Grade 4 to 6 is an iPad mini with a case. Grade 7 to 8 is an iPad mini with a case. Grade 9 to 10 are 4 passes to Wild Waterworks. And grade 11 to 12 are 2 Canada's Wonderland admission tickets. And the winners will be contacted and announced through our Facebook page, and we'll also be on CKRZ on August 1st. And to qualify for the draw prizes, all your signs must be displayed on your front lawn for the judging month of July 2016. And this is part of our work of the Community Collaboration Committee to try and pull the community together and work together for our kids and, you know, what they want to see, and try to make our community more healthy and safe for everybody.